I was thinking to myself, how would I approach reviewing or showing this kukri? Should I take the offensive approach to show you basically in its heart, it is a fighting weapon? Or should I take the approach of its geometric to be a hard hitter? I could also take the approach of being an excellent bushcrafting tool. I'm going to show it all to you because you know what? This kukri can do it all. Straight to you from Spartan Blades, this is the Spartan-Harsey Kukri. So guys, let me butt in real quick. If you like this type of video, a like, a share, and subscribe. If you're not subscribed already, will definitely go a long way. Help me out on my venture to 10,000 subs. I definitely need your help to get there. So definitely give me a like, give me a share, give me a subscribe, so I'll keep on getting these videos to you. This is the rendition that the legendary knife maker William H. Harsey Jr. had designed for Spartan Blades. So it is a Spartan-Harsey Kukri, and it's definitely an amazing kukri at that. If you're not familiar with the kukri shape, which happens to be my absolute favorite geometric out of all knives, the kukri was originally renowned for its military application in Nepal by the Gurkha armies, that is. So pretty much some of the most incredibly tough armies in the world. This was their primary weapon, was the kukri. But it quickly became widespread as a utility multi-purpose tool. Now the kukri today, in its heart, it is a fighting style weapon because that's basically why it was made and how it's contoured and how you can use it. But with its genius design and its amazing center mass and just the way the geometric is, I mean, you can go from clearing woodlands to basically processing wood to making a fire to slaughtering an animal and also skinning and processing the meat of the animal. There's so much that you can do with this kukri that it can be basically an all-around survival outdoor type of tool. Obviously this kukri is tough and it's made to be used, but we cannot ignore how beautiful and museum style quality that this knife comes to you out of the box. Now if you look at the curves and you look at these, just the beauty of the curves of this knife, this thing has better looking curves than a Victoria's Secret model. Well, not really, but it'll come close. You have an 8 6/8, about almost a 9-inch blade with the very tried and true 1095 Crovan steel from K-Bar, expertly made from K-Bar in Olney, New York, here in the USA. It's made by its artisans to be the utmost in quality, and I got to tell you, Crovan, they do a great job with it. I have my hands on many Crovan steels. Their 1095 Crovan is no joke. Easy to sharpen, has a pretty good edge retention, and it's tough. It works. You can bang on it, you can abuse it, it will keep on going. It's got a beautiful black powder coat, which actually it's still, you know, the powder coat is still there. With all the abuse I gave to this knife, it still has the coat that's handling itself pretty well. It's got a really beefy 1/4-inch thick spine. Now if you look at basically how it tapers out from here, it has different types of angles on it, and it has a really wonderful, almost diamond shaped reinforced tip that makes this thing extremely tough and makes it a very, very hard hitter. The handle is a signature Harsey design. It's a black injection molded, whatever the hell that means, but whatever it is, it's still, you hold this in your hand, guys, it's a very high quality Harsey handle design. I mean, I can't speak enough about Harsey designs, but their handles on all of his pieces are incredibly comfortable, easy to grip, no fatigue, no hot spots. It's just perfect fit and finish. Again, it just lends to that museum style type of quality in terms of the appearance, the fit and finish, and how it looks. It's ingeniously designed so it definitely grips and fits your hand well without giving you any hot spots, and perfect balance. With under 2 pounds, about 1.282 pounds, the first time I put this thing in my hand, and if you guys saw my open box, you would understand, the first time I put this thing to my hand, this thing felt incredibly balanced. This thing feels like when it's in your hand, it just wants to hit, it wants to cut. It has like a nice forward canter to it with that center mass here, right here in the front, the bubbled out in front of the kukri, that it just wants to hit, it wants to impact. If you feel it in your hand as soon as you put it in your hand, how incredibly balanced it is. You saw when I was throwing it down at the stump, the hardwood throws, basically the 4-foot drops, how perfectly straight it lands into the stump, and even the hard downward throws, I just felt total control over it. And it's just hard to explain how well balanced and how good feeling this thing is in the hand until you hold hold it in your hand, but if you can take my word for it, it is an incredibly balanced knife. I'm not coming to you as a professional knife fighter. I just know that when I put this into my hand, I can feel how easy this thing is to slash and cut and change directions extremely easily. This is a very, very good slicer and cutter. If you're on the offense, this thing is definitely something you want to have in your hand, and it's going to feel comfortable doing all the motions, all the range of motions with this knife. Uppercuts, down, side to side, the stops, chops, the stabs. It just feels like an extension of your forearm. It feels great in the hand. So as a fighting knife or offensive knife, it definitely fits the bill in terms of a kukri in its nature, and in terms of how Harsey designed this to be an excellent balanced offensive type of tool. We have to talk about the kydex sheet, guys. It has a perfectly good, I feel like it rides basically well. It's not too low, not too high. You also have some Velcro straps where you can bring it up and down and be able to release it from your belt easily. But the great thing about it is, again, it's just Harsey. It's just that Spartan quality in terms of the design. It has a locking mechanism. It has a strap where it holds it in place, but it also has a locking mechanism where it kind of a button lock where it clicks into place. So basically, without hitting that button, this thing will absolutely not come out of its sheath. You actually have to engage on the button in order to be able to release it. So it's an extra way of basically locking this into place to be perfectly secure at your side. And if you want to, you can actually put the strap on there. It's just perfectly fitted, perfectly molded for the kukri itself. The locking mechanism keeps it incredibly secure, more secure than I've ever seen any kydex design I've seen on other knives. Having that button lock, it just gives it that extra level of security, that it's not going to come off your sheath, and it just really locks into place with a perfect fit. Very kudos for a high quality design kydex sheath, you know, Spartan knife after Spartan knife, and it's all made in the USA. Okay, so I did it as slow as possible. Very impressive. This came in at 166. All right. So that, doing it as slow as possible, it cut the thread at 127. This is a little bit sharper, more closer to a razor blade sharpness, because anything at around 100 and under is ridiculously sharp, like hair popping sharp. Sharpness level of this kukri out of the box is fantastic. Now you saw how absolutely razor blade sharp this kukri was out of the box, with the science behind the sharpness test that I showed you. So it's razor sharp on each end of the blade. You have razor sharpness coming from Spartan blades. It's very appreciated to have a very ultra sharp item out of the box every time. I showed you how sharp it is scientifically, but I did my normal protocol of cutting through the ratchet straps, industrial materials, the sandblast hose, the electric cable and things like that. I cut through as many materials as possible just to show you in action how sharp it is out of the box. And I tried to use each end of the blade, and I tried to show you each end of the blade how you have equal sharpness throughout the entire cutting surface. Having also a 56 to 58 HRC makes it basically a hard hitter type of knife that you don't have to worry about being too brittle at the edge to be able to do hard hitting, but also have that level of sharpness that you need in order to do the fine woodwork. The beauty of the kukri is this inner part of the blade right here, closer to the handle. This is the part of the blade that you can do all of your bushcrafting work. Because of its hugging curvature of the geometric of the kukri, this is an excellent wood processing tool. You can definitely go in and do a lot of the fine work on the wood in terms of the feather sticking, in terms of processing little pieces of wood to start up a fire. You can definitely do it with this part of the blade perfectly. And the beauty of it is you can move to this part of the blade to do a little bit more chopping action, where you can take that feather sticking that you made, chop it up a little bit into pieces, so you can definitely take that and use it straight into your fire to start up a fire. So you can see how basically each part of the blade does a different thing in terms of the kukri. processing wood, chopping wood, wedging, and basically stabbing, penetration. It's just a marvel in design that you can do so many different things with this kukri in terms of the geometric to make it an all-around knife, a knife that can do a lot of things. What amazes me the most, guys, is this tip. This beautiful reinforced tip here that is so solid that I know that doing a tip test on this thing, which is not something I recommend you do on knives, but I know that basically showing you how strong the tip is, it's warranted on this knife because it is a very strong tip. They actually advertise that it can open up cans, and I think it probably can. I don't have any cans to show you here in the woods, but it will definitely open up cans because from basically doing the tip test and really putting some pressure and abuse on the tip, nothing happened to it. It's just perfectly fine, no bends, no rolls. And you can see also later on with the batoning how much I was beating the crap out of it, and the tip is perfectly still fine. So guys, we can't ignore the fact that it is a hard hitter with a 1/4 inch spine and this beautiful belly here in terms of that center of mass here on this kukri, and just basically how it's balanced and how it's designed in the hand and the whole curvature of it. This is definitely a slicer, but it's definitely also a very, very hard hitter. Now you can see how I was completely trying to pulverize this 4x4 solid piece of petrified wood from Home Depot. This is definitely a very hard piece of wood. Those of you who cut into that type of wood, you know how hard of a piece of wood it is. It's not just a tree or something like that, but I was definitely banging right into it. I actually had to speed it up a little bit because it took me a little while to kind of get through that whole piece. So the kukri didn't fail me. I got fatigued, and that's why it took me a long time. But if you basically have the endurance and you can get through it, you can probably get to a 4x4 within probably about 10 minutes or less, okay, depending on how hard hitter you are. But basically the kukri didn't fail, but basically it's just if you have the endurance, this thing will keep on going, it'll keep on cutting. And finally I was able to really get through that 4x4, cut it in twain, son, and the kukri is in still perfect shape. The edge didn't roll, there's no edge damage or anything like that. It's still pretty damn sharp out of the box, and this is after cutting. It just handled the chopping really, really well. Now, I did baton with this knife too. Now, some people say that you're not supposed to baton with a kukri, and now I admit kukris are probably not the best designed knives to be doing batoning with, but you could be shit sure that this kukri, if you need to baton with it, it's going to do that job extremely well for you. You can see how I was completely really slamming into the tip and the sides. It really went through even that petrified log extremely well. And I don't know what wood that is. It's like some kind of crazy synthetic New York Staten Island wood, but it was hard as a brick bat, son, as Scab says. And it was really hard to get through, but I was really banging the shit out of this thing to really try to put as much pressure on the edge as possible. In fact, it got to the point where the screws kind of loosened up a little bit. I tightened them up with no problem, and it's perfectly fine, but that's how hard I was hitting into that batoning stick. It was doing an incredible job batoning into that wood and hitting it from all sides of the knife. There was no damage, no fatigue. Can you baton with a kukri? Absolutely. It'll stand up to all of the big buoys out there, being one of the greatest knives you can use to baton with. I think it does a damn good job. Inspecting the edge, inspecting the spine, everything about it is perfectly fine. Again, other than the screws loosening up a little bit, which, you know, an Allen key, you know, you just gotta have to have one with you. An Allen key or two, basically a couple of turns, and this thing is perfectly solid, no problem at all. Nothing happened, but the edge, nothing rolled. The tip is perfectly fine. I have perfect confidence that you can basically do everything from fine work, like even going into like a tri-stick and making up notches on a piece of stick, that fine work that you need to do to basically make up notches to make up like a put down a tent stake or something like that, or tie up a tent stake. You can definitely do it with this end of the blade. There's so much that you can do with this end of the blade here, and the fine work, the hard work. Something like this, if you're taking one knife with you, this is a great one knife option. I always recommend kukris as being a great one knife option because there's so much you can do utility wise and multi-purpose wise. So with the amount of cutting that I did, guys, I feel like I put this thing through like an entire camping trip. I did a lot of cutting with it in many different ways, out in the woods, basically cutting into branches, de-leafing, de-branching things, the hard batoning, the hard slamming this thing into a 4x4 to cut it in twain. the processing wood, the balancing, the tip test. There's just a lot that I did with it to basically put as much pressure as possible I can on the tip, on the spine, and the edge of the knife. And I feel like it still can go more. It's a great quality made knife. And this is design from Mr. Harsey is always spot on, and Spartan Blades always executes whatever Harsey designs, they execute it extremely well. Starting off as a museum style piece to a piece that basically you can definitely use and use it hard. It's a marvel in design. I very much enjoyed using this. Now, would I carry this, guys? Gladly. Shit, yeah. I would carry this every day if I can. It's a very easy carry with the Kydex sheet that they give you, and I feel like this will be basically the outdoor knife for me that I would definitely want to have with me. Probably other knives as well, but this is definitely a knife you could want to have with you, and you'll find that there's going to be so many different things that you can do with this knife out here in the wilderness, from defending yourself to processing wood to making a fire to slaughtering an animal to skinning an animal to processing meat. So doing the food prep, it can do everything with each part of the knife having a different purpose, and always having that incredibly comfortable handle that Harsey gives you, the gentle jimping on the top, and just a well-balanced design. This is just a perfect design, perfect function, perfect looking, and it did a great job. Guys, it's definitely another winner from Spartan-Harsey. Love this kukri. This is definitely one of the best kukris made in America. I will definitely pin this against maybe that K-Bar kukri or some other kukris from Tops that I hopefully will get. We'll do like an all comparison kukri type of thing. It packs a lot of power within this 13-inch frame of this knife between the handle and the knife. Guys, if you're looking just to get one kukri and you would like this compact design, I definitely know that this is the way to go. And you know what, for the price that you can, I think I saw it as low as about 150 something from Knife Center. It's definitely a great price basically on this kukri. It's just, again, museum style quality, but packs a punch of basically a knife that's probably a lot more expensive than what it should be for a relatively really good price, and it's American made.